So those, as I said, were some great databases that you should be able to find in your library. Use those. I would encourage you to focus on the SIC code, the NASAS code, but make sure you filter them down to get smaller numbers to cope with. And if you still have a large number, just start with the list geographically closest to you and just come up with 100 to 250 names and then work it from there. Put it on your Excel sheet. So lesson 2 is to lead and a follow-up system. So we've now done the research. We're now going to take our list, start working on them. We've pre-screened people based on our ideal customer, based on the SIC code, based on the NASAS, and now we're going to create our list that we're going to probably do a little bit more research on, but we're basically going to start to put this together so we can start to reach out to people in terms of calling them on the phone. If they're not there, we're going to be leaving a voicemail, and we're going to be following up with an email, just like we discussed on our previous session. So I want to talk about this quote. I'm going to read to you because this next slide, it applies to this next slide and the one afterwards. And unfortunately, I don't know who the author is, but it is, "We live in the single most difficult time in history to get someone to make an initial purchase with your business. Never have there been so many choices." And that is definitely true. We all saw it with the event of the internet coming on, and it just has taken on its own life and just quadrupled and quadrupled. So it's harder to get people to notice you, but there are a lot of ways that we can be working on this to get them to notice us. Now I'm giving you a list of 14 things that are free. What I'm suggesting is, of the 14 things that are on this sheet, look at and check off the ones you're currently doing now on a consistent basis. If you're not doing them on a consistent basis, pick 3 or 4 and start with that. If you are doing 3 or 4 of these on a consistent basis, then take this list and expand your universe a little bit wider so that you'll get more exposure to more people. And then you just kind of keep expanding it and expanding it as you work through it and as it starts to work for you. So the first one is word of mouth. That's someone you meet in the grocery store. That's someone that maybe your kids are going to school together with them. That's someone you see at church. That could be someone you run into at an industry meeting, but it's word of mouth. That someone's going to say, "Oh, by the way, Eleanor, I was talking to someone about you the other day in your firm," and you say, "Oh, that's great, thank you very much. And oh, by the way, do you remember who it was?" And hopefully they remember, or you can call them tomorrow and see if it jogs their memory. So names are getting passed around, just like someone could give you a name, okay, and say, "Hey, here's a great name I want you to be aware of. It may help your business." So what are you going to do? You're going to remember to follow up. You aren't just going to put the name aside and forget following up. Referrals. We talked about it in our last session. I'm challenging you to get 1 referral a year from 1 customer. And if you haven't done it for a while, go back and see if you can get another referral, particularly in this marketplace. Alliances would be something similar to joint venture, affiliates. So think about organizations that you might have something in common with. And by putting your product together and their product, or your service and their service, you could really help each other. Let's say like an accounting firm, and if an accounting firm hooked up with a payroll organization, now you could keep each other posted and basically help each other on leads and passing on names. The next thing that we're talking about is pro bono work. In this economy, there are a lot of companies that are struggling. There may be some small startups that normally that would not be your demographic on your client profile type, but you go over and you help and give them, an hour a week just to try and help them on their business, and you can bet your bottom dollar that they're going to remember you. And because of your generosity of heart, and they saw how much you understood their business and helped them, that as things begin to turn and as their business grows, they're going to want to come and hire you. And it's also just a goodwill gesture to really help others. I mean, that's, to me, is what it's all about. Then we talk about networking. We're all pretty familiar with that. We can be networking now on chamber meetings via Zoom. We can be networking even over the phone, even just to call up and say hello to people is kind of a low profile way of networking. But networking, always trying to meet new people and help and share and pass things on. Third-party endorsements would be people that, let's say in your industry, they've never actually worked with you, but they know of you through somebody else that has worked with you. And so there again, your name is being referred, it's being recommended. I've been very fortunate with the Remington Group 97% of my business comes from referrals. Talk about number 7 would be your trades association. Offer to help in a trade association. Number 1, you all have an interest in the same industry. You want to see it benefit. And basically also it would be a way that suddenly people see you more. They see you being involved. They see you at a masthead of a letterhead or listed on a website. And they also say to themselves, well, this person must really understand our industry. If they specialize in this service or this product, I probably want to reach out to them because they're probably going to be able to help me. It kind of creates a small halo of credibility. Speaking of halo credibility, teaching. Teaching is another way that's, reinforces your credibility on a subject to help. I used to do it when I was at Loyola University prior to the pandemic. It was Quinlan School of Business, and I was working at the undergraduate level, and I found it incredibly satisfying helping the students. You can also teach at the MBA level. So you are helping others, but then you're also honing your skill, and you never know where these leads will go. Creating a product. See if there's a way, very low cost, minimal cost, maybe no cost, where if you have 10 things bundled together, you can unpack them into individual pieces or 5 pieces. To try and serve your market better or get into a different market that you might not normally have approached. Radio and TV appearances, I highly recommend them. I've done more radio than I have TV. Keep reaching out to them. You get a media list, and you never know where they're going to need someone to fill in a spot where you can show people in their audience how you can save money, make money, or solve a problem that they're not thinking about solving that you may be aware of. Do speaking engagements for Vista, for Chamber, for SCORE. For your church, for other organizations, and just try and even for some of your clients, you could do a mini presentation for free, kind of as a bonus thing. Maybe not the whole project or whatever, but you could take one finite small area and just do a PR speaking. I'm sure you've heard of also the expression lunch and learn, so you can do it during lunch hour. 12, do a position paper. You may be an expert in accounting. You may be an expert in lead generation. You may be an expert in advertising. So write a position paper that shows something new that you've discovered in the industry or the benefit of the ideas that you're sharing. And then you're putting your name, your contact information in a small bio at the bottom. And there again, someone sees it. It increases the perception of you being the expert they want to reach out to. 13, blog posts. You should all be doing blog posts on your websites and also try and be guests for other blogs. So there again, expand the horizon of your credibility and expertise. Number 14 is social media. I think we talked about it earlier. You basically want to spend an hour a day on social media, but don't get waylaid and just kind of like spend your whole day with social media. So those are the free ideas that you can use to help further people's awareness of you that currently aren't aware of you or don't only know you a little bit and not a lot. Because as you know, we all want people to know, like, and trust us to be able to do a transaction and purchase from us. Here are some ideas, but they do cost a little bit of money, okay? Now, printing a newsletter. I've been doing a newsletter on a quarterly basis, 4 pages. It basically is a large paper that the printer just folds in half. And I'm sending it out to 2,000 people in a similar geographic area. And it's costing me $700 to $900 per quarter. And it is very well worth the investment. Not everybody reads email. Not everybody does social media. So you have to think about broadening your basket, so to say, in terms of how you're going to reach out to your customer and your consumer. Electronic newsletter. I suggest you do an electronic newsletter once a month, where the print newsletter, I'm suggesting you do that on a quarterly basis or twice a year. I would not suggest going only once a year because you've lost the awareness to the individual at that point. Relative to the website, some of you, it may be appropriate to have what we call a brochure website, which is pretty much just who you are, the about, what are your products, what's your service, what's your contact page. For some of you, you may have a more robust website because you may actually be selling either your services or particularly your products on that website. Commercial publishing, going to direct mail. You could have a just old-fashioned letter that you were sending out to people. You could have a promotion on it. Direct mail, we talked about at one of our previous sessions, using the postcards to make people aware of you. Number 5 would be print interviews. The newspapers are very busy right now. I can tell you that for a fact. The whole internet and social media has kind of changed that market. So reporters really don't interview you anymore. They will send you some questions and they will ask you for the answers. But basically what you could do here is you have someone interview you internally or a friend, and you literally do the Q&A, the question and the answer, print it up, and then send it to an organization. Now they may charge you to insert it because they may consider it like an ad, but I would still encourage you to follow up with your media list and see how that works out. Number 6 is trade ads. I've always had very good luck in trade journals because a lot of people forget about trade journals to advertise. Advertising in general, you're going to have to look at your overall budget and decide what makes sense. We're all kind of into guerrilla marketing right now in terms of really managing those funds as the economy continues to improve. And number 8 would be passive listings. This could be a listing in one of your church guides. It could be a passive listing in an association magazine. It could be a passive listing on an association website, and you pay for that privilege. But you at least have the awareness you're listed as a vendor within a certain category. So think about which one of these you can really try. You know, pick, like I said, 3 or 4 from the first one. If you're already doing 3 or 4 things successfully, then expand out, because everything kind of builds on to itself, and it keeps getting your image, your reputation, and the awareness of your business and product and service out there. Relative to the ones that cost a little bit of money, you got to look at where you're going to get the best bang for the buck. So pick the one that you feel the most comfortable with. And all of these, you should have a website. So number 3, you should be starting with the cost of doing a website has really come down, and you can go to a couple of these organizations that you basically can just get it on a month-to-month basis. One of the ones I use on one of my websites, because I've got like about 5 or 6 websites, is Squarespace. Otherwise, I'm doing them through my own server, and that's a little more complicated. But there are several organizations out there. You just have to do a Google search. So here we have our bucket. So we think we're doing everything right, but we're still not getting the sales that we have on a continuous basis, and particularly in this economy. So I really wanted to kind of like say, fine, let's drill down, no pun intended, where is there potential money that we're losing? It traditionally happens where there's no follow-up with lost customers. People kind of get embarrassed. You have a falling out. I mentioned it to you in one of our earlier sessions. One of the greatest ideas is to go into your unsubscribed on your email list and see who is unsubscribed, figure out who they are, and reach out to them on the phone. And just try and say, you know, we were sorry to lose you. I felt that somehow we must not be adding the value that we thought to you and your business. Could you tell us how we could improve in terms of helping you with your business? The customer that you also maybe had a falling out or didn't pay the bill, or you had a difference of opinion on the quality of the product, the service, try and go back and again, find out, make sure you totally understand what went wrong in that case and how can you make it better. And then I would follow up. I'd make a verbal apology, and then I would follow up with a written letter. People get referrals. They call once, but no one ever calls them back, so they forget to follow up. That's a classic. Again, remember our goal is to get one referral from one customer. And if you haven't done that recently this year, you can start all over and start a new slate and try again starting tomorrow. No follow-up on contact information. So something will come through the contact form on your website. You get busy, you forget to call up. Look into there, make sure you're following up on all the contact information. Make sure you're clearing your voicemail out on a daily basis. We all get busy because some of us now, like myself, I have business lines and then I have a cell phone as a backup. So you've got to kind of keep current with all the means and how people are catching up with you, just like when they're reaching out to you in email. Again, we might get a lead from a trade association. We follow up once, but we never hear from someone, and then we forget. We just don't go back to it. So you need to have a mechanism and a system in how you're going to be able to capture all these things and track when did you reach out to them, when are you going to reach out to them again. And as we discussed in the past, this is going to be at least 5 to 6, maybe 7 or 8 reach outs. It's not just going to be 1 or 2. And that's where the richness and the nectar is in the system. If you can remember how many multiple times it is, you will succeed and surpass your competitors, because most people don't understand that. And most people don't like reaching out to the unknown because they don't like being rejected. But you got to get over it. It's not about you. It's about you may not be the priority in their life at their moment. They have a different sense of urgency, or for some reason they do not understand the true value of the product and service that you bring in terms of transforming and changing their life. And no follow-up with new customers. We get the deal. We follow up for the first 30 months. Maybe we take them out to 30 days. We follow them out, maybe take them out to lunch. We do a couple of phone calls. We all feel good. We ask them for the referral. They maybe do give us the referral. They don't. And then we kind of go along our way and we go on to our next new customer. You really need to follow up within the first 30 days. And I'm telling you, you need to follow up again within 60 days after the first 30. And then put them on a 3-month cycle just to say, I know you're busy. Hope everything's great with the family. Just wanted to say again how much I enjoyed working with you, and keep me posted if I can help you in the future. So here's a system. We all intuitively go through the system, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to lay it out for you just to remind us of what the steps are. So first we have our prospecting of the target market, and the market's defined, and we have pre-work. So here we go. We define it based on our ideal customer. So you had that profile. Remember, we talked about being aware of what industry are they in, how many employees do they have, what are their annualized sales, are they a B2C or B2B, business to business, business to consumer. And so you take that information, and now you're going to go do the pre-work in some of these databases that I suggested. You can also do regular Google searches. You're going to go over to their website, and you're really going to try and figure out who's the decision maker that you're going to reach out to. You may not succeed, but you're going to try based on some research. You're going to look over at LinkedIn at their background. You're going to see if you have friends in common. You're going to do all of that. And now you're ready to reach out. So you're going to pick up the phone and you're going to call them. Statistically speaking, the odds are they're not going to be there, and you're going to leave your first voicemail. So let's say that's on a Tuesday. And so now you're going to follow up on a Wednesday with an email saying, you know what, Bill, I left you a voicemail. I suspect you're busy. I'm referred through whoever the name is, or if you're not, you just say, would you like to increase your sales 25% in the next 9 months? So, take a accomplishment from a previous client and tease them with that line. And on the email, you could say, and oh, by the way, I'll be reaching out to you Thursday to see if I'm able to help you or how I can help you. And so you finally get the meeting. And so you've done your research. You've probably talked to them 1 or 2 times. You've gotten a little bit of background information. They've told you what they think they're looking for, what they think they want. And you're going to go in, and you're not going to sit there and tell them how to build the watch. You're going to tell them what time it is. You're going to cut to the chase, and you're going to make sure they understand the value that you're going to add to their life and their business by purchasing your product or your service. You're going to make a difference for them. They're going to be sleeping better at night. They're going to be working less hours because right now, they need to make up for the person that's not helping them, or for the product that's not working. It's causing them a lot of headaches and customer service and quality issues. Whatever it is, you have to communicate that value presentation. And sometimes that'll work on 1 interview, sometimes it'll work on 2 meetings, and sometimes it'll be 3 or 4, because you're going to be gathering more information every time and fine-tuning it. But at a certain point, they now respect you, they trust you, they like you, and they're buying the product. They understand the value. And then we have the follow-up after the sale, like we talked about. First 30 days, then in 60 days, and then do it on a 90-day interval. Just a quick call to say hello. So this is my $1 million sheet. So it's not something that's like incredible in terms of how it looks and everything else. It's very simple, but this is my sales call list, and this is how I have kept track of my clients. Now I have a CRM system. I use Goldmine, but I have found, I told you how I use a logbook, a spiral notebook. I keep it there to take my notes, but this is always on top. So around 5 o'clock at night, I would basically list 25 or 50 companies that I wanted to call, depending upon, what I had on my list. I would put the phone number, I would list the contact information, and then tomorrow morning when I come in first thing, that I have my list, and I'm going bang, 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 and all those phone calls. So you're going to need to make some photocopies of this, and I'm going to be giving you this in the membership site as part of your downloadable material. And then over on the right there where it talks about the title, I would take the title down if I know the person. and I have a red pen, and so I check it with the red pen when I've called. And so if I'm going to call, let's say, you know, November 1st, I put November 1st. And sometimes I even put the time of day. And I don't cross-check it until I connect with that person. So the odds are, if I call them on Tuesday, I'm going to be calling them on Thursday. So I date it so I can kind of get a sense of when am I not reaching the person, which will possibly show me when I have a higher probability. And then it just gives me an idea how much effort and time am I putting on this. And at a certain point, as you remember from one of our previous sessions, you're going to say in a voicemail, well, it looks like we're just not connecting. I've called you 8 times. I appreciate you're busy, and I'm not going to be calling you for another 6 months. But it's a tracking mechanism. And so you're working on that during the day, and at the end of the day, then you can transfer all that data into your CRM system, or if you want to do it during your lunch hour. But don't use what we call in the business the golden hours. The golden hours are the most productive time and the probability that you have of catching up with somebody. So you save that for the end of your workday, after hours, after 5 o'clock, and then you transfer the data into your CRM system. But I have another idea for you. So one of the coaching programs I've been involved with is Michael Port. This came up in one of his students had this idea, and I thought it was great. And I even created my own right here. This is mine, which is a version, okay. And in here I have the index card guides for the 31 days of the month. So it starts at the beginning of every month. So in this case, I'm going to be on today's date. So what you do is you take an index card, like right here, and the names that you have on the sales call list, I would put the company name, I would put the contact name of the person I think I'm going to be following up with, put their title, I would put the number of employees, the number of sales, I would put their SIC code, their NASA's code. I'm going to, believe it or not, I always put the email down at the bottom if I can get access to that. I'd have their website, and I would date it when I started the first card, just to know when I started this as a prospect. And in the back, that's where I would carry over the information on. I called them, you know, such and such date, time, such and such date, time, send them an email, VM for voicemail. And so I track the whole progress of what I'm doing. First of all, it kind of helps you see the process as you're going through it. When you put it into a CRM system, it's there, but once you move out of that client, you don't see it. So it's kind of a way for me, is it feeds me energy because this is tactile, I'm using it. And so if I call them on the 1st of November, which is say is a Tuesday, of whatever year it is, because I'm not sure what the year is, but just for an example, then I would want to put this in for Thursday. So, or I guess I would say, I'm going to do a phone on Monday or Tuesday. I'm going to send them an email, so I'm going to put it the next day, and I'm going to put email. And then once I email it, then I'm going to check it, and I'm going to move it forward for Thursday on the 3rd. And at a certain point, if you speak to someone and you set up an appointment, then I move it forward to the day of the month. So it's a quick, no nonsense, fast, tactile way to do tracking. And you can do it, you know, with 5 people, you can do it with 10 cards, you can do it with 20. I'm just suggesting that if for some reason you feel your follow-up isn't as good as it could be, or you want to improve on it, or you want to try a new idea, try this idea and see if this system works better for you. So I never knew about the system. It's a simple system, and I learned about it, I want to say about 4 or 5 years ago, and I really like it. So I gather a lot of history. When you have a card for someone, it's like, how did you meet them? So were you involved in this organization with them, or did you meet them through this person professionally? So I have all that little information right there. It doesn't mean you can't find them in the database, but now I have to go into the database. And to me, the going back and forth in the database and on the phone and everything and the email, it just, there are lots of more steps that to me slow me down. So when I'm doing my prospecting, I hit it hard. I want to call 25 or 50 people in a day, okay? And so the way to do that is you just have this list and you start. And you have the sheet that we talked about in the previous session. And I'll upload it in this modular session in terms of how do you track and how do you do your calls and your follow-up. And we gave you the time of days to do that. So lesson